This is the pattern, the Lucy Boston Patchwork of the Crosses pattern that we're going to be making. I am going to curate bundles of fabric from Cotton Patch every month to create our own version of this pattern. So not these exact fabrics, because these are from like 1880. We're going to do it in the 2000s, and we'll utilize those bundles to work on an 18-month potential journey to complete the quilt. So it is, you could always make it smaller. This one is 88 by 90. So we could definitely make it smaller over time. I will show you a different layout if you want to do it. And there's always things that could be adjusted on along the way. But since this is on my bucket list, I am focused on creating the original one. So the fabrics that I do curate for this across various lines, they will all work together. When we finally put this all together, you had seen me having the Corey Dantini line. I was showing you that as this is a line that you could use, but for purposes of this quilt, while there will be some brights scattered as we go along in the blocks, it will not be all brights. And they will, I promise you, they will all work together in the end. All right, with the introduction out of the way, let's start on our inaugural bundle, Lucy Boston Block number fabric bundle 1. These are the 4 fabrics that I pulled. You will be receiving in this bundle 4 fat quarters of each of those fabrics. And every month it's going to change depending on the repeat. And we'll talk about repeats in a little bit, but I just want to show you them in their entirety. So this one is a Tilda fabric. This one, Wonky Dots. This is Fanfare. And this is a Plaid. Now, I started this block by utilizing this fabric. I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the girls in it, and I had to have it. So this was what I built everything off of. So I started with that, and because I love geometrics, I added in not 1, but 2. And you will see over time, I love stripes and plaids. There's so much you could do with it. I know a lot of people get scared of stripes when they're doing their quilts, but for an English paper piecing, particularly the Lucy Boston block, it is so magical. Same thing with the dots. It's just fun to add some graphic in there. And then of course, the flowers with all their motifs. So I am going to go through on the up and close and show you each fabric, why I chose it, but one at a time, and then show you the different placements so you could find the motifs I used in each of these blocks. So this is the fabric that started it all. There was something just really enchanting about this woman that I knew I wanted it in the fabric. So this is the first one that I created, and it has her in there, and we'll get to cutting her out in a moment, but I wanted to talk briefly about repeats. So what's nice about this one, because I wanted to do this, I needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A repeat is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have ample number of women on this to recreate that block. So that when I look at it, I see what is the thing that jumps out that I want the most, and that's the woman. If I were to do 8, because the way that this block is created is 4, 4, and then 8 and 8, are there enough on the fabric to do my favorite part in all 8 positions, the largest one? And on this, it is yes. It is my basis now because I have staked this that I will draw colors from. So this brown, the blues, the yellows, and that's what I'll start working with. It has defined my color palette. All right, so now we're going to find the anchors. On this particular one, we're going to use the flower and we're going to use her hairline. So I'm going to take my template, I'm going to line the flower up in that point, and then I've lined up her hairline to just be grazing here. This is where I would then take out my marker and go around it and then cut her out. Later, when I'm putting my paper piece on, I'm showing you the back, I would then find the flower and her hairline to again line it up. If for some reason when you're using the air erase marker, you find that this is kind of dark, so it's hard to see the lines, if that happens, you could always use the back and do the same lining up aspect to it. So those are the anchors for this one, which I put in this third, what I call the third position. So put it here. This is also called a whole motif. So what I also liked as a whole motif was this large blue flower that I put in the fourth position, again, here. So then I find the blue, and look, there's plenty of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that I could draw from. So I am going to line this up. In this case, I'm using this bottom long leaf. The point is going to be pointed, and then there's going to be a gap between this little white flower and the blue leaf, in which I will point it to as well. So the point here and there, trying to maximize how much flower is in there. I will outline it again with my pen, and then I will cut it out. And I will do 8 of those. So that's in the fourth position. And again, a whole motif. Now we're going to be doing a partial motif for the second position, which is here. And I don't know if you recognize it. This is the woman's forehead that I utilized. And I liked it because it kind of created this counterpoint to the dots that we're going to be doing here. So let me help you find how to focus cut that one. So we have her head. There'll be ones that you've Swiss cheesed, but there will definitely be enough to draw from. I will take this and I will use her eyebrows as kind of an ending point. So I will bring it down. There's her eyebrows. I'll lift it up. So it'll be between her nose and her eyebrows. And then I'm going to try and get as much of the flowers in as I can. So the edge is just going to be grazing that center point of that one. So then every time I go to cut this partial motif, I will use her nose and eyebrows down here, and I will use the center of this flower on the edge then as the line. Again, trace, cut it out, and then when you're lining up your paper piece to this, you're going to utilize her eyebrows again and the edge of the flower. So that was in the second position. Now for the center. So this is the center position on that. And I used her hand. I thought it had a nice kind of curve wave to it. And then the way this cut, I thought it had like a nice pinwheel effect. So let's find that one. So I am going to be utilizing the hand. I'm going to use the fingertip on this one. And I am also going to be using the flower edge. So here, I've got the fingertip going there. I'm using the edge of the flower, and then this flower will cross over that. This is not an anchor because it's going to change positions a bit, but you've got the flower and you've got the hand with the curve, and then I would outline it and cut it from there. So I just want to point out, because nobody's perfect on this particular one, if you look at it, when you first looked at it, you probably are like, oh, this looks perfect. It is not. So I have the whole flowers here, but I also have more of these on a side than I have on others. You'll notice that this arc is fatter than this arc, but you know what? It still works. In my opinion, it still works. I did not need to readjust anything to do this. So it is forgiving, still gets that pinwheel effect. Don't worry about perfection. So that is fabric number one. Now, fabric number two that I pulled into it was my first geometric, and it is the dots. And I liked the dots, one, because of the color. You could see it pulls in her hair. But even though this peach is not exactly represented, I felt it really matched the tone of it and that I could have fun playing with the dots. So they are also imperfect. They're wonky dots. So let's start with probably the most straightforward. Is going to be in the second position. And you could see around the edge, these are kind of wonky. That's okay. So for this one, I would just do the dot to where the edge is in the point. So it is there with no other dot up here. Now, if you wanted to take it and be precise, this is where you take your micron pen and you could outline the wonkiness. And then you could go to another block and go, okay, is this matching the wonkiness? Or if you were doing it from another angle, you could see how it doesn't quite match. That's up to you. What's nice is that after you've completed that, you take a tissue and could just wipe it off. Now, if for some reason you let the micron ink sit and it dries, you just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and a rag and just wipe that off. So that is second position one, where you've lined up the point to that. So we're going to now go to position 4, where we've got a big portion of dot and a smaller portion of dot. And while I showed you how you can make them match in the previous position, if you notice, if you really look, this has got a bump that this one doesn't have. I'm okay with that because I'm looking for the overall effect, not just this particular point. So what I'm going to, so you could see what this looks like, I have it matched up in these corners. Those are going to be my anchors for this. So in this case, I will bring the fabric down, or the template down on the fabric, till those points line up in there. And then I could always adjust this a little bit to where I find it comfortable. And then when I mark it and cut it, then I use these 2 points as the anchors for putting the piece of paper. Now we're going to get a little fancier. We have the third position, which are quarter moons. And I thought they were fun that I created a mirror of them. So it could look like there's an X of sorts in the center, or the moons. All 8 of them are cut exactly the same way. It's just this gets rotated to be that. It'll be the exact same block you're cutting, it's just in how you place it. You could also do it where these 2 face one another and you just have this big dot with the outer edge. Up to you. That's why you get to play with these things. So now let's find this on the fabric. For this one, I did not quite use the same anchors. It was more what was on midpoints that I wanted. So creating kind of in the center point on these two. I like the bit of wonkiness. You could always adjust as you want, but as you could go around and see, your dot is going to change even as you go around this particular dot. But I used kind of a midpoint, cut it out, use that, and again, you could rotate it, not on the same dot, but you're cutting it the same. So that gets us through this dot. One more dot, and it's the one that I used in position 1. And I created kind of a pinwheel to it. So again, I'm pointing out the mismatches just so you feel comfortable that it's okay to have a mismatch. So in this case, where this is, there's more of a gap that, say, in this edge. These aren't all even, but the idea is to get the effect of it. So then in terms of the dots, I'm going in to create that pinwheel. And this looks good to me, where it's kind of in that spot, kind of in this, and then I've got this tiny, it's almost like the moons that you did, but I shifted it so I have more of this curved effect down here. Now you may find as you're doing it, you're going to catch some of this. What's nice and forgiving about this is you could just rotate it to get it out. So you don't have, so it's clear here. So that's the dots. Next came, and I'll pull back out the original fabric. So I just loved the flowers. And when I saw this fabric, I just was like, it was a play on all of these flowers in here. What I also look for is variation. So here I see there's this big flower, there are little, there are these, there's a whole bunch of different opportunities to play with this fabric. There's also, and this is our first fabric that does this, is a mirror image. So you have a flower that's going this way, but then you have that same flower over here going the other way. They're done a little different because this one has these and the big leaves and things surrounding it, and this one's plain, but it is a mirror image. So let's start by playing with that mirror image. So again, because I really wanted to play with that mirror image, it is the first one I cut. And that's important because on this one, we're going to show you some ways to play when you don't have enough of a motif. So here I did 1, 2, 3, 4 going one direction, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 going the other direction. They are not identical matches. You're going to see here, there's a little bit of flower where there's not here. There's a little bit of here that's not there. But as an overall effect, I feel it works. So let's cut that one first, or show you how to do that one. So the first one, I am trying to maximize the flower without trying to get all these other flowers into it. I am not necessarily looking to align the stem because I'm looking more to get more flower in it. So I would utilize it like this, where it doesn't necessarily have a solid anchor, but it gets the most of it in while excising these other extraneous. So then for the other direction would be this flower that doesn't have all that extraneous. And then I would do the same thing and try and maximize the amount of flower that I get into it. So again, not necessarily matching this, which you could definitely do because that's a nice anchor, but I'm trying to maximize the flower in that. So that gets you these pairs. So next up, I'm going with the center one because it is, while that one was a whole motif, this is a whole motif as well. So this is that flower. And what I'm going to do for that one is I want the effects of this shooting out like I have here, but I don't necessarily want all the frilly of this in the center. So I will take this, go up, so I go to like the points of where those petals ends would be. I'm lining up the leaves to be in it. Again, the stem is not in the center. You can, it just gives you more white over here. So I just chose more of this to do that. And then I did it in the center to create the wave. So now you're going to find that your fabric is starting to get a little bit more choppy because you're digging into different fabrics. So this one is also a partial motif in which I'm going to use this portion of the flower as an anchor and then this white space here as the other anchor. So here's that flower. Going to go up, create that anchor and the white space and use that to cut out 4 of these. So last but not least, this particular fabric, depending on how you do the angles, you're going to be cutting into a lot of these from different angles. So I want you to feel comfortable that they don't all have to match. With what I had left of Swiss cheesing the fabric, I did not have 8 of the daisies, even if I chose one going one direction, one going another. So you will see those are different. But then I also liked these flowers and said, why don't I just pull those in? So the way I laid them out, though, is I did mirror image here, mirror image across from it, and then the flowers, just the opposite to balance it out. So how I got these was basically what positioning was left. And I just would go through and do. There isn't like a definitive anchor on these because I'm going to tell you, as you can see, it's next to this fabric. So depending on how you cut this one out will change how you may position this particular one. So play with this one and have fun doing it. So the last fabric, which I'm super excited about, let me bring out the original. This is a striped plaid. And I particularly like, this is on a dark background, so I always like to pull in something else that has the dark background too. Not so much in this block, but in other blocks, we're gonna have where it blurs the line between these. So even though we have these 4 distinct positions, we may use having the dark backgrounds or some of the symbols to blur where you don't necessarily see that there was a line there. It'll look like it is a continuous pattern. So I chose this for the dark, but I also chose it for the stripe aspect. And if you note, it pulls a lot of these blues into it. It's super fun. So you're going to see stripes come up a lot. So again, this was the first block that I put together because I had the girl that I was most excited about, but I was also excited about playing with the plaid and pulling together an X. So this is one of those times when you're going to look at a fabric and it is not exactly the same in all directions. So if you notice, this line of 3 rows of dots is wider than this line of those 3 rows of dots. But that's okay. You just know that it happens, and we will line things up appropriately to take advantage of it. So I have X's where the fat goes this, fat goes here, fat. But you know, if it doesn't work out that way, it's okay. You're still going to have the X effect going all the way around. So in this direction has the larger of the stripes, and this one has the narrower of the stripes. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be lining up my X. So I have in one of the directions where it's on a point and a point. And I'm putting dots on so you can see where I'm lining those dots up. So all of these are cut the same. With the wider here, you're just going to flip it from here to here to get the wider ones to line up. So they're all cut exactly the same. So that's how you get the X. So my next favorite way of cutting the fabric is a stripe. In the third position, so this is the third position for it, a stripe creates kind of a box around in it. And it's strong. I find that it's strongest in the third position. So let's do this. You're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4 in one direction and then 4 in the other. I have the dark dots and the light dots, and I used, as you could see, light dot as an anchor point, and then the dark dots line around the bottom. So the idea is to get that dark dots and then the light dots in the corner. Again, because this is dark fabric, you could always use the back side, but you could line that up. And this again is when I take out the micron marker, and I'm going to go a line across. This is my line of blue, or my dark blue, and then my line of lights. And I could use that to guide it as I go. And then this is a handy dandy little trick because I need 4 that go the opposite direction. I'm going to flip it. I'm then going to draw those lines again on the other side. A little trickier on this side because this is where all the cutouts are. I'm going to wipe it off of this side, but now I have it so I could do same cut, but it has done my other angle for me. So I don't have to guess how do I need to position things. And then when I place them, I will do one this direction and one that. This is after the X. This is probably my next favorite, is that I created an arrow in the second position. And how I did that was utilizing the wide part of where the X comes together and use these 2 dots as my anchor. I just want to have those 2 covered and then have the center line. You could always do it where it's shorter and have the anchor be there. I just wanted it to be a little heavier, so I did that. And then last but not least, in the center position. Now here I have a mix of the heavy and the thin. I think it works. And I'm just using the center line as the center line. And that is where I'm going to be guiding and doing it. I've got 2 rows here, 2 rows there, and a center line to cut out and use as my anchor guide. Now, you're seeing 4 of the ways I could do it. but I urge you to play with it, because this was another one that I had considered, is creating this V shape, because that could be kind of fun, that instead of this one, you'd have a V going as a surrounding frame. So even though I've created it to look like this, feel free to play with it. That's the whole point of these fabrics, is to play. And again, as you cut it, you're gonna have Swiss cheese it. Don't throw it away. We will be using all of these again.